Now, remind me of the name of your book?
Thrive in Midlife.
Thrive in Midlife. It's recording. So I've got to give myself also a bit of time because I've been jumping down and then going into it, and then I haven't got time to cut.
Ah, yes.
So
yeah, that's okay then. So we
just need to sit here for a second.
yeah. That's that kind of cross-legs or something.
I know, I was sitting with Robert the other day and it was really cosy.
God, this is
Can you send me my phone, please?
Your phone.
I haven't turned it off.
There we go. Oh,
And
yeah.
not that it'll go.
Oh, you never know, do you? You never know.
You never know. I feel like that's in the middle of Get out of my way!
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Hi Jane, thanks for coming in today. I'm really excited to speak to you. You're our hormone expert in our magazine and our membership program, and I'd love you to talk about your book, and you've also got an online program as well.
Yes.
So,
thank you, Sharon. Look, I'm a hormone expert from the point of view of being a woman who was battered and beaten around by menopause. And in fact, this is where the online program has come from. To backtrack a little bit, you know, I'd been living a life that was a busy life. I had a very high-powered job in one of Sydney's major museums, and I ran a coaching practice on the side. And you might say that the coaching was my soul food. And came a time where I just noticed myself really declining at a fairly brisk rate in terms of my cognitive ability, and I had traded off being a very intelligent woman. I may not have had as much spiritual intelligence as other people, but certainly in terms of my savvy in meetings and being able to carry myself in that regard, it was a very, very important part of my identity. Well, I started finding myself unable to find words, finish sentences, coordinate my thinking. It was actually scary. I thought, my God, is this, early onset Alzheimer's? It was really a worry for me. Not to mention the fact that my joints were starting to ache. I seemed to be stacking on weight like nobody's business. And the hot flushes were the main thing. And then it became pretty obvious what was going on. And they were so extreme that not only was I not sleeping well at night, but during the day, I'd be, just hankering to get home so that I could just, strip down to the bare minimum. And this sort of got me to a point where I thought, this is not a life worth living. And I went to the doctor and certainly it was the case that I was menopausal. And he started talking about HRT, which is what they naturally do. And when I mentioned that my mother had died from breast cancer, there was a look that came over his face. He didn't say what he was thinking, but, I gather that there is still some questionable, matters to be resolved around HRT. Now, it's very, very safe in the scheme of things, but from my point of view, I went away from there and I thought, well, before I would do anything, surely, if I was coaching someone in my condition, I would say, now look, how's your general self-care? How's your diet? How's your exercise? Stress management in particular. For me, this is, I'm clap on about stress management all the time because there's an epidemic of stress in the world that we live in, and that's really no good for anybody. But, I asked myself that question. I didn't get good marks for any of those things. And that was kind of ironic, given that I was coaching people around this stuff.
Isn't that always the way?
Isn't it the way? And I was going downhill at a rate where I just thought, well, this is mad. Have a little bit of mindfulness around how you're treating yourself and your body. You're no good to anybody else if you're not looking after yourself. And really, I did just put myself on a program that and I kid you not, within 3 days of not eating processed food and sugar, if I just cleaned out that aspect of my life, not only did my hot flushes diminish, to a degree that made it comfortable, I didn't have any.
Wow.
anymore. So you got to ask yourself, well, not that we don't know this stuff, but I have to ask myself, why was I putting that stuff in my body? It's madness. So to answer your question, though, about, the book, and here it is, I'll do a little bit of kind of self-promotion while I'm talking to you, but there's my book, Thrive in Midlife, and that came out of the process that I put myself through, and I thought, look, if this worked for me, it's going to work for other people. So I documented how I went with this, and I also then thought, well, if a book is helpful, then an online program is also helpful, and I have made what I see as a great little program that has 2 videos, 4 audios, and an online journal that people can download and just chart their own progress, and to go through the mindfulness exercises in particular, and to really just take on board that they are their doctor. They are their own doctor. There are times if I'm hit by a car, I'm going to a doctor. If it's about a general, phase in life, menopause, for example, we're not sick. We're certainly having a change in our hormones. We need to get a good understanding of what our hormones do for us and what they can't do if we're not practicing self-care. And really that's what my program is all about. And I'm so glad to be having it out in the world now, because my mission is just to empower people to work with who they are and where they are to just live the best life they possibly can.
Cool, thank you. I think, I've read your book, and I think that people pre-menopause would benefit from it as well, because the tips that you give them are general health and well-being for that part of your life. And so, therefore, rather than waiting for menopause to hit, wouldn't it be good to actually read the book and install that into your life right now? So maybe you don't get the hot sweats like you did, or you know what I mean? The symptoms won't be so bad if you start that healthcare now.
That's a really good point that you make, actually. That is the case, that I hit a wall, as it were, because I was carrying all of the load. My liver wasn't in great shape. It's not going to be if you're not eating well. My body in general wasn't in great shape because of the stress. And that I was, letting just run away with me. And the whole thing about stress, of course, it is going to be taxing your adrenals in a way that you just don't want to be happening. And of course, stress being, the resource that we all have as human beings to use when we need it. Not all the time. Chronic stress is the one that's going to kill you in the end. But stress can get us out of trouble. It essentially just turns all of your resources into energy that goes to the extremities of the body, so that you can run, so that you can fight, so that you can freeze if you need to. But the question is, what's not happening when that's happening? And it's all of the things that are not essential if your life is in danger in the moment, but that are essential to ongoing good health. So what suffers when you're stressing all of the time is your digestion. Is any of the growth and repair work that the body is not seeing as essential if you've got to run away from the, saber-toothed tiger, but that is absolutely essential as we move through life and as we get older. There is no doubt in my mind that I've aged much faster than I would have otherwise done because of the level of stress that I've lived with. And all of these people who are having trouble conceiving, the whole IVF industry is thriving because of the fact that so many people are so stressed that their body couldn't care less about reproducing. It's just not important in the scheme of things from their body's point of view. So you make a really good point about that this is helpful from the point of view of pretty much anyone at any stage of their life. If you want to be better, the first place to start is to look at all of those things that I talked about before: diet, exercise, mindfulness, stress management, overall self-care. Really the difference that you can make for yourself if you haven't been doing those things. And of course a lot of people do. They do look after themselves, but people like you and me aren't in a job Sharon, because everybody knows how to look after themselves well.
That's right.
Coaches and holistic practitioners, we are needed in the world because kids aren't brought up to understand this stuff. We weren't brought up to understand this stuff as kids. It's not taught in schools. If I could make one difference in the world, I'd be having all schools having mandatory meditation sessions and yoga and nutrition. You know, they do little, they touch on the edges, but I just think these are the life lessons. These are the life lessons that someone like myself, where I went through university, I did the master's degree, I got the management job, I lived the life. I wish earlier on, rather than putting all of my energy into that stuff, I'd put my energy into learning these basic life skills. This is what they are.
That's the thing, isn't it? They're so basic, we should be taught them at a very young age, but we're not, and that's why we get so sick.
That's it.
If we had these, we implemented them earlier on in our life, who knows where we'll be.
Indeed.
And I totally agree with you. When we start teaching it to kids, that's when we're really going to make the change.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, you're doing a special offer for your online program for the members at Global Healing Exchange.
Exactly.
Which is very exciting. Thank you.
And look, I can't tell you how, well, I can tell you, you know how big of an offer that is. That is about 1/10 of what I charge, you know, out there. But I so appreciate what you're doing, Sharon, in terms of making the world a better place. And that's not an overblown statement to make. You are really pulling so much together in the one place. This is what's important, because I think people get weary from trying to find out different bits of information, and there's so much conflicting information in the mainstream media. So I just can't support what you're doing enough, and I'm so happy to have my program attached with Global Healing Exchange.
Thank you so much. So just to finish off, if somebody's thinking, oh, this is quite interesting, I want to get the book or the program, what would you say to urge them to actually take the action to buy the program, or, you know, to get the knowledge to aid their own health?
Oh, look, I would just say that you would not think I'm the same person talking to you now who would have been talking to you.
More than 10 years.
Well, that's right. Yeah. But even, I think my lowest low was a couple of years ago with menopause, and it was all to do with the wackiness of my hormone levels and all of the stuff that I had done before. As you say, we've known each other for a long time, we know how much we've done. It doesn't take a lot to knock you off balance, and that was what happened. So I would say to people to just always check in so that you know if the wall's coming and you can stop before the wall hits you. And something like an online program like mine is a fairly accessible, this is what I think is important, and also about a book. You know, you can pull that out of the shelves, you can go, okay, Thrive in Midlife, is that available for me? Can I do that? And then you would read my story and know that there's been a lot that's gone on that would have really taken me down to a place of no good, where no good could come from the way I was treating my body, and that if I can turn it around, anybody can. And to be able to read someone else's story too, and to go, you know what, there's nothing wrong with me per se. I don't deserve this. I don't, it's not my destiny to not be well, that there are lots of different ways that you can work with your own situation, with your own circumstances, and really broker some fairly significant improvement. And so that's I guess one message from my book. Again, I keep holding it up because I kind of love the cover too. But that's the message in my book, and that's certainly the message in my online program. And both of them, in a different way, give people some really concrete tools to just, and I think for me, mindset is the big one too. I talked about stress management, but mindset feeds into that. They're pretty closely related. And if you can just put a nanosecond between the impulse to go down and the ability to bring yourself back up. You know, that's what the nanosecond can achieve. It's the go down isn't automatic. There's a little gap there, and if you can grab that gap and use it to just tip that back up, and you can build those skills. That's the thing, is we might think we're not good at something like that. Well, nobody's born, well, some lucky people are perhaps born good at it, but most of us aren't born good at that kind of thing. It's a skill to learn. It's like trying to learn to speak French or whatever. Have some patience with yourself. Invest in yourself. That's the thing. The small amount to subscribe to Global Healing Exchange, where you get so much in the way of resources. It's nuts, actually. That's there for people.
I wanted to make it that way.
That's it.
A no-brainer.
That's your generosity, and that's how important it is, though, to people like you and me. I've done a huge discount on the online program because this matters.
It does,
It
and I
really
don't think
does.
money should be a barrier. You know,
No,
everyone should have
exactly.
good health information. And unfortunately, in the world at the moment, we're not getting it enough. Or as you said, you're online and you're looking and there's lots of conflicting information.
Yes.
But to actually get it all in one place is just
It's
amazing.
rare,
So I'm so
and
happy to have you a part of that. So thank you so much for coming in today.
Good. Thank you
I
for
will be
having me.
interviewing you again in the future. So thank you. And if somebody wants to find you,
Yes.
where will they find you?
Well, they'll find me at wellnesscoachingcollective.com. So that's hopefully easy enough to remember. Well, it's a long one, but wellnesscoachingcollective.com.
Well, thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you.
That's it.
Great.
Give me enough to cut. Well, that went a bit longer than
How long was that
I
one?
don't know.